here. I'm a juggernaut here with APLEA, the APLEA update. We're here to interview Jose Caban, and we're going to talk about his martial arts experience. He's one of our newest members of the APLEA instructor team, and he's going to tell you a little bit about his martial arts experience, based out of Rhode Island, right?
Yep.
And so tell me, what got you into training? Why are you training? Tell me about yourself.
Okay, well, how I got into training is probably going to sound a little generic.
Okay.
You know, probably very close to many of other people. The way they'll explain it, they'll tell you how they got started. For me, it was karate movies. I started watching like the kung fu movies. I thought it was cool, but I never really believed into all the flying and all the acrobatics until I saw Bruce Lee.
Okay.
That's when I kind of really focused in on martial arts for the first time.
Okay.
Was seeing his movies. And the first movie that I saw, and I still remember, it was Enter the Dragon, which was his most popular one, from what I understand. After watching that movie, then I saw Chuck Norris. Then I saw a lot of other martial artists that were making movies during that time. And I just got sucked into every one of them. It was like, wow, this is cool. This is what I want to do. I want to do that. At 11 years old, I went to my first karate class. Started, doing katas, doing forms and all of that. It was great. I loved it. Then, I don't know what movie it was that I saw that started promoting Taekwondo. And all the fancy kicking and everything. Then it was like, ooh, I got sucked into that too. I had a friend of mine who was doing kickboxing, the Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Then I started seeing the Muay Thai movies. I got sucked in that as well. So I kind of had like a transition of different martial arts where I would jump in. Did that for a while, then like around at the age of 15, I kind of like decided I needed a break. Because it was like from one thing to another, and I was like all into it.
Yeah.
I was starting to burn out. Once you start as a kid, by the time you reach your teenage years, at some point you feel like you start to burn out or you start to lose interest.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happened. So I just broke off for a while. Pretty much took a break, just like a mini vacation, and then I saw Steven Seagal. I saw him. I saw, what movie was it? I think it was Above the Law. I think that was his first one.
Okay. Yep.
Once I saw that movie, then it was like, I got sucked into it again. It was like, that's what I want to do.
Sure.
Like, you know what? All the fancy kicking and stuff is great, but I'm getting older and I'm getting tired. It's like, that's what I want to do. Then a friend of mine in 2000 introduced me to my grandmaster now, Richard Petronelli, which he does Kung Tao Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
So I got to see him for the first time. Completely fell in love with it because it was like, this is what I'm looking for.
Where's he based out of?
He's in Rhode Island as well. He's I think right now, because he's moved a couple times. I think right now he's in somewhere in Johnston. I think Johnston, Rhode Island.
Okay.
Is where he is. And he's also has a huge background in martial arts as well.
Okay.
From a kid, I think his father, if I'm correct, I think his father did judo. So he started there. He also did karate. I believe he did a couple other different brands, and then he was introduced to jiu-jitsu by a coworker, or somebody told him about it. He actually used to travel up to New York to meet with Professor V. I don't remember his name.
Professor V. Moses Powell and people. Go ahead.
Exactly.
I know who he is too. Yeah, as soon as you said that, yeah.
Man, come on, stop playing.
I'll tell you what, we might even see them. I'm actually, just to interject, we're actually headed to Atlantic City at the end of this month. There's a big trade show there, and a lot of those guys and their descendants in that lineage.
That's where
go there.
a lot of my crew goes there as well.
Nice.
So yeah,
Yeah, I might have seen some of your guys. Like, I've been going to that trade show for like 15 years. Like,
really?
Religiously, except for like last year I was in Oregon. I couldn't go, but like this year I'm planning to make a comeback. I'm gonna bring Tank Girl there. I'm gonna bring the handler.
I might be going.
Yeah.
But what I do is when I go to places like that, I sell classic martial art magazines.
Oh yeah.
You want to come in the camera with us? Come hang out with us, man.
Nah, man,
All
See,
right.
I've always
let me be quiet.
I've always been invited to go down to Atlanta.
Mm-mm.
Never had the opportunity to go. I've always wanted to, just never happened.
Okay.
But I'm hoping one day I'll be able to go down.
Yeah, man, come this year. Not Atlanta, Georgia, but Atlantic City, New Jersey. It's only it can't be that far from you. It's
No,
about
Atlantic
5
City.
hours from us.
Atlantic City.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know what Atlantic City is?
Mhm.
Okay, Atlantic City. That's what it shows at.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. I mean, the boardwalk's right there. There's like, they usually have it at the Tropicana, and Grandmaster Alan Goldberg, he's like the host of it. He actually, I didn't realize this at first, but he's actually kind of like a Wing Chun older brother of mine, you know,
Right.
uncle, kind of in the same lineage. Him and my Grandmaster, Grandmaster Moyat, is basically they knew each other because they're both in the city and stuff like that, very closely connected. But he was a student of Grandmaster Moyat at one point in time, and also of Jason Lau, who's another Wing Chun guy. But it's always a good time. Lots of martial arts dudes. What I love about actually that was the first experience. I first went there in 2004, and it was my first experience with like martial arts guys from different styles getting along with each other.
Right.
Like all up to that point, and since 1993 to then, it's like 10-year experience. My experience in the martial arts was like, you stick close to your teacher, you stick close to your school. When you show up to deal with other guys, you defend your teacher and his school. In honor, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so like the idea that Grandmaster Goldberg came up with of basically having a melting pot of all these different styles where they all hang out, really nice awards dinner, vendor tables, you can kind of like check out what they're doing, and seminars and cool. It's just a lot of fun. Yeah, so we're probably going to bring classic martial arts magazines there, and we're going to be, you know, bringing APLEA there because that can apply to all systems, you know, especially if they're looking to get beyond the martial arts and do some more tactical training, weapon stuff. Like everybody should have it. Everybody in America can own a shotgun right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot you can do with a shotgun that you can't do with a bow staff. You know what I mean? Or nunchucks or sais or any of those other things. And I'm not against any of those things. In Wing Chun we did butterfly knives and a long pole. But I ain't carrying an 8-foot pole around with me in the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? So but I do carry a Glock. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
it's nice. I've had some good teachers in the Israeli Defense Force kind of show me some stuff. And I'm no marksman, but I'll tell you what, if you're under 50 feet, you know, and you're trying to hurt my family, my sidekick ain't gonna be what's stopping you. You know what I'm saying? But so go ahead, back to you, man. So back to you. So you got involved in jiu-jitsu,
Right.
and that's the organization you're currently with now.
Right.
And so, what is it that drives you to continue training? You train for more than some people. Everybody's like, oh yeah, I did martial arts for a couple months, 6 months. What makes you interested in training more than your average person?
Well, for me, I've always loved the discipline of it. All right. Hasn't always been about the fighting. I mean, granted, you know, it's the fighting. It is appealing. It does kind of like draw your attention, and you know, oh wow, that's something that I can do. I want to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
But it's more the discipline. You know, you're not just punching. You're not learning to do this just to fight. It's a lifestyle. It's how you live your life.
Yeah.
You know, it's like eventually it becomes, you know, a part of who you are. Like how you treat yourself, how you treat others.
Right. It's like a code, like the Bushido code,
Right.
the code of
like
warriors.
The art becomes a reflection of who you are.
Sure.
So how hard you train is how strongly you respect yourself.
Yeah.
How strongly you give respect to other people. So that's what's kept me in it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the respect between the people that you train with or people that come close to you, it becomes a camaraderie. It becomes like kind of like a community or like a family.
Yeah, that part was big, very big, attractive to me. Is that like when I was in high school, I didn't fit into high school. You know, my kids had a different experience. When my experience in high school was horrible, I went from private school to public school in 8th grade, and so I didn't know anybody, and I had a really hard time plugging into Feng groups. And when in the martial arts, my Sifu pulled me into the whole thing. We call it the Kung Fu life. Like, the Kung Fu life is what happens when you're not on the mats together, when you're out afterwards you're having a meal together,
Right.
you're going somewhere to an event together, and you're learning about everything else, not just about the blocks and the punches and stuff. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
And so that for me was what kept me in the art too. It's like, this is a family. This is, and it's not even just, that's, in fact, that's a draw a lot, which is sad. A lot of these kids nowadays that don't have moms and dads that are plugged into their lives jump in gangs that are super negative because they don't have positive influences. And for me, had the martial arts not come in my life when it did, I probably would have been in the same path.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the public school system. I come from a broken home, and I've been around the exact same environment. I grew up around the same environment. I've known people in gangs. I've hung around with people in gangs. I pretty much in their gang get together. I was there with them. Lots of them were like, "Oh, why don't you join our gang?" You know what? Sorry, but that's just not.
Yeah.
It's not my thing. It's just not. I'm cool with all of you. We can continue to be friends, but this isn't for me.
Yeah.
And luckily, they respected me after. We're like, "Oh, well, you know what? That's fine. As long as you're cool with us, then we don't have anything against you."
You know, one of the things I learned is like a gang or an organization or a company is only as good as the reasons that hold them together. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so like that's one of the things with APLEA I wanted to provide when my brother and I formed this back in the day. It started forming this. We wanted to provide a safe family environment. You know, something you can bring your kids around. Something you can bring your family, even your parents, and say, look, these are about people doing good things. But at the same point, there was also an urgency because 9/11 had happened. We were in the military. At the time that 9/11 happened, all of my buddies who were in the military, they knew exactly what to do because they had a job, they had training, and they just did their job. If you're in the police department, if you're in the FBI, they just did their job. That was what they were supposed to do for the response. But everybody on the outside, growing up, everybody was always taught me like, we're the professionals, let us handle it. Please stand back on this side of the line, son. We got this. You know what I mean? We're here. The professionals are here. But then when I started looking into the details of it, I started to see like Flight 93 was headed to the White House to crash into the White House that might have wrecked us even more because as it was, you remember like the economy did this, the planes were grounded for a week. Had they crashed into the White House, it could have caused even more of a ripple effect. But it was just private citizens, private American citizens with not even much training. I think there was one martial artist in there. There was a hockey player. They're normal people that decided like, we're not going to take this. We're not going to just take this sitting in our seats waiting to die. We're gonna do something. And so that's where APLEA kind of started to become a reality. Like, this needs to be more than just about a martial arts program that I can have a little family. The big family of America needs to be protected.
Right.
The big gang, you know what I mean? The big organization, we're at risk. And like in the martial arts, it's like you go to those tournaments and you're like we were just talking about in the kitchen, like you're with other schools, and it's like you felt that sense of like we're a team. You know what I mean? And there's a sense of honor in that. And like I really believe like a lot of the people growing up in America that have never served in the military or never had an opportunity to really be part of a team like a martial arts program or something positive like that, a sports team. My son had football and wrestling, and it gives you a sense of being plugged into something that's bigger than yourself. Like my son wasn't hitting the parties because he needed to play football that next Friday, and he was not going to get kicked off that team.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because he was an important part of that team, and he knew that team needed him to win the game. You know, it wasn't a cocky thing. It was like everybody on the team is important, and I believe that in America, a lot of people who haven't had experiences like that, positive experiences like the martial arts, they're lacking in that. They don't feel a sense of even identity with America because it's like they never experienced a positive. They've only experienced negative.
I agree.
You know, only getting pulled over by the cops, getting roughed up, being in situations where they can't get jobs because the jobs are for the favored people and not them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And so I feel like our country's in a great place of great risk right now, and doing martial arts like you do and like I've done and still do, I think it's something everybody needs to do. I really believe it. Like, I mean, because that could be the one thing that stops, a little bit of martial arts training, I don't care what style it is, could be what helps you stop potential terrorist attack, active shooter situation at school. Some crazy dude in a movie theater deciding to open fire on people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or at church. Like, most people don't even think church is... Everybody thinks, I'm going to church. Even the cops, for the most part, when they go to church, they leave their guns at home because they're thinking, oh, I'm not at work. I need to just take a break. My focus needs to be on God.
I mean, church in everyone's, I would imagine in everyone's mind, everyone's heart, church is a safe zone.
Yeah.
If you're going to church, this is where, I'm going to show my devotion to my what are my beliefs. This is where you feel safe. This is where you should feel safe.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to worry about, this guy's gonna break in a door with a automatic rifle and wipe out the place.
Exactly. Like back in the day, I mean, the idea of hospitals, churches, these were considered non-combat zones.
Right.
You would never bring guns, you know what I mean? But the problem is, America has become more savage. To use a word that my friend uses a lot.
You know what?
And
there is a truth to that.
and it's becoming more and more like the Wild West, and the outlaws are more savage than they've ever been before, with no respect for rules or authority,
Right.
with no respect for right or wrong. I mean, in fact, we're making video games nowadays. The way you win the game is by raping and pillaging, and
Yeah.
looting,
Oh my God.
and that's how you win.
Right.
And so now these little kids, they have no parents in their life. The only gang they ever join is the video game gang, where the people around them are cheering them on for raping and pillaging. And we wonder why 5 years later an active shooter thing breaks out, because this kid doesn't feel like he doesn't belong in school.
Right.
So we're gonna take everybody out.
Yeah.
There is, I'm not trying to blame it on video games. I love video games too, but I mean,
You need to.
there's a lot of pieces. There's a lot of pieces that add up to why things aren't working right now the way they. We just talked about this. 25 years ago, it was not the way it is right now.
No, not at all.
Now I'm like a parent. Like, I have a 9-year-old in school, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I see signs all over the school like, don't bring your gun here, don't bring your gun here. But I mean, believe me, you want me to have my gun in that school if something bad goes down. There is such a thing as good guys.
Right.
And the good guys aren't because they do a job. You're either a good guy or a bad guy because that's who you are.
Right.
And whatever your training is that gives you that job, whether you could be a good doctor that keeps people alive, or you could be a bad doctor that commits very horrible things that I won't even mention on this camera because I don't know who's watching. You know what I mean? Assisted suicides. Let's just throw that one out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that one's pretty PC. But I mean, just because you have a skill doesn't make you a good guy or a bad guy. Just because you're a police officer or a government official or a doctor or a lawyer or whatever doesn't make you a good lawyer or a bad lawyer.
That's how you apply those.
Yeah,
skills.
and that's what I like to. And that's what I liked about the martial arts is like this code of honor, this honor code, this code of chivalry, the code of Bushido. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just the idea that hey, we stand for something bigger than ourselves. I think everybody could benefit from that.
Definitely. And touching on what you were saying about the schools and especially with schools nowadays, how the school shootings, these things are starting to become more common. The schools don't want to allow guns on the property. I mean, if you think, me thinking about it, because I have 2 children of my own, I have a 9 and a 5-year-old. I'm not against an armed security guard on campus.
Sure.
He's a trained professional. That's, in case of a situation like that, yeah, he should have his gun.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side, as a parent, thinking, okay, yeah, well, what if he has to fire his gun and he accidentally shoots a child?
Yeah.
That's a reality that, yeah, you
Sure.
do think about.
All these things have to be taken into consideration.
I'm like, okay, all right, then for those that say, no, we don't want guns on campus, I'm like, all right, well then how about an alternative? How about training the teachers or the staff to be able to protect the children if a situation like this happens? If you don't want a gun on campus, okay, then how about training the staff?
Yeah.
How about training the janitors to be able to submit or react to that?
Well, that's why there's like I consider 3 parts to what the APLEA Citizen Response Program is: unarmed, bladed response, and firearm response. And for people involved in our programs, like, you might not buy into all 3. You might just want to, even if you just train unarmed, you're you're a more hard target. You're better prepared to stop something. You know what I mean? Even if you're not carrying a gun, but you know the dangers of somebody carrying a gun. You know how to turn the line of fire away from the potential targets. You know how to secure the weapon, taking it away from the bad guy. You know how to do that with your self-defense. It's huge.
Right.
Most people though, they either don't have the time. They believe we'd rather live in a world that we believe is safe than face the fact that the world we live in is not safe.
Yeah.
You
Everybody wants to like turn that blind eye, and you can't keep pretending that everything's great because it's not.
I have so many conversations with people like, well, the world is not getting more violent. What's happening is because we have TV, we're just able to see all the violence on TV, and that's why we're overwhelmed because of TV. I'm like, that is not true.
No.
We had TV 25 years ago when Columbine happened, and that was the only incident that happened for several years.
Right.
And in the last 5 years, the amount of school shootings that have happened are like 1,000 times as much as the ones that happened in the late 90s.
Right. And
You know what I mean?
That was the biggest one that happened. That was the first
Yeah.
that I believe.
Yeah, I mean, there was, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And the problem is, not that we should be freaking out about it, but we should at least prepare a little bit. At least be prepared. I mean, I remember as a kid, we used to do fire drills. We used to also talk about home defense. Like, hey, if a fire happens, you put this sticker in your window, and the fireman knows that's a window with a kid in it, and they're going to come and get you, okay?
Right.
And here's how you crawl on the floor. Here's how you touch the door handle to tell whether... Yeah, is it scary to tell kids your house might burn down someday? Yeah, that's a scary situation.
Right. But, again, you're preparing them for that.
Yeah.
If you happen to catch on fire...
I don't remember being scared of fires when I was a kid.
Me
You know what I
neither.
mean?
Me neither.
So it's just something that I believe we need to address. Just like, well, Daddy, why do I got to put my seatbelt on? Because if Daddy crashes, if you don't have your seatbelt on, you're going to fly through the front windshield, and you're going to be somewhere out in the middle of the road. That's a pretty scary way of telling your kid to put your seatbelt on.
Right.
I'm not saying you got to teach them that way, but the reality is that is the reality. And we need to help prepare people that we're not living in the safe world that we grew up in.
No.
It's getting worse. And the only way to, just like, you know what? We used to have debit cards. We weren't worried about people taking our identities when we had debit cards. And now we have to do extra measures, put them in separate little sleeves, get anti-theft cards, have the bank call us when somebody's potentially getting our card numbers.
Right.
So
our phone's going off notifying us if there's a false charge.
Exactly. So we have to just keep evolving with the world that we live in, and I believe to not be involved in some kind of a self-defense, self-protection program is a huge mistake. Hey, at least I'll give you a statistic for this that comes right out of the Bible. So in the Bible, Jesus was like, how many swords we got? And the disciples, there's 12 disciples. This is just an interesting thought. The numbers thing, the disciples said, we got 2 swords. And Jesus was like, that's enough. So if you follow those numbers, 1 person out of every 6 having a weapon, okay? That means it's about 15% of the disciples were armed. And obviously Peter used a sword later when they tried to capture Jesus. But the idea is that I think security, to have a beautiful big facility, even in Shaolin, even in the Shaolin temples, the reason they started training martial arts, why? Everybody brought their gold to the Shaolin temple as offerings, and now they have gold to protect. So guess what? The monks, besides washing dishes and cooking and studying, they also needed to provide a security component to protect the gold of the temple. So, and not just the gold, but the knowledge in the temple, the history that was also being kept in the temple. So that's all I'm saying.
So everyone that lived there trained. Everyone that lived in that temple trained.
Yep, and this is I love Wu-Tang Clan. Wu-Tang Clan came out when I was in high school as well.
Oh yeah, I remember them.
Shaolin, they called Shaolin, Staten Island was Shaolin for them. But I believe that we are in need in America even more than just self-defense training. We're in need of what you and I both were drawn to in the martial arts, the sense of community.
Yeah.
Being plugged into a team that was serving a greater purpose than just getting money just making money, just being, just paying your bills and doing the normal stuff. It was something bigger and more important. So that's all. Is there anything that you would, if somebody looking to get involved in martial arts, is there anything that you would tell them to look for, or something they should check out before they get involved? What should, depending where they live?
Well, first off, I would say, look within yourself to make sure this is something that you're gonna pursue long term. Not just, don't just be attracted to it and think, oh, this is beautiful, I want to do this as a phase, because phases come and go.
Sure.
Look at it more as if, do you want this to be a part of your life? Do you want this to be a part of who you are?
Yeah.
And that's what's gonna keep you there. Because if you're only gonna get into it just because it looks fun. Games are fun.
That's true.
But guess what? You get tired of it after a while.
Yeah, there's a certain point where like all of a sudden the fun ends and it becomes hard work.
Right.
My teacher used to say all the time that the definition of Kung Fu is knowledge, hard work, and discipline. Those three things. So the knowledge is the knowledge of the art, but then it takes the hard work and then discipline to stay doing that hard work that makes you become good at your craft.
Yeah, exactly.
The biggest shame I see in the martial arts in America is that I would say 90% of the Americans that I talk to who aren't involved in martial arts, actually, I think the statistic is 4% of America does martial arts. So in any community you go to, out of 100 people, there's 4 people that actually do martial arts. There's a higher percentage of people that exercise. So some people join martial arts for exercise reasons, which is fine. But I believe that the saddest thing I see in the martial arts, the perception of martial arts is like, oh yeah, that's good for the kids. It's good for the kids. I understand it's good for the kids, but I think
it's not only for the kids.
It's not just for the kids.
It's not.
So.
I mean, there are many different styles. There are many different, different styles, different teachers, and yeah, there are certain teachers that are better qualified to teach kids, but there are also better instructors that are better qualified to teach adults.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's something that people need to start understanding.
Yeah.
It's not just, oh, this is good for the kids. No, that's a teacher that's good at teaching kids.
Yeah.
Look for an instructor that's good at teaching adults.
Right. If you're an adult wanting to get involved, not saying you have to be an adult. I got involved as a teenager, but I jumped into the adult program because I was 16. And again, I'm very pro kid. All my children have learned martial arts. At least some. My youngest probably, I still got more to do with her, but my older 3 that are now all in college have had a few years of martial arts training, and I have some black belts in the family, so. Which is good.
I'm gonna start teaching mine. My youngest is 5, and she's already starting to show interest because she's seen pictures of me and she's seen a couple of videos of me doing stuff.
Nice.
So now she's like, oh, when are you gonna teach me? When am I gonna get my karate uniform?
Yeah.
In time, you'll get yours.
Yeah, I mean I honestly, half the time I've had a kids program in a commercial school was just so I had something where it was my kids plus a few other kids. You know what I mean? Just because I wanted my kids to learn so bad, I didn't really care how big the kids program got. I just had that program so that my kids could learn, because now they're in college. I got 2 beautiful daughters that are in college. One's in her first year and one's in her second year. And you know what? They're a potential target to bad guys.
Oh, yeah.
So, hey, thank you for being here with me today.
No problem. Thank you for
This is probably the first interview. We're going to do more as we go with Jose. We're going to follow up on him through the years. But, hey, welcome to the APLEA Rangers.
No problem.
We'll be talking soon. This is the Juggernaut signing out. Peace.